I am a temple who walks the earth. My womb is fertile for giving birth. I am a woman planted in truth. I grow my branches from sacred roots. You are the form of who you want to be. So come untethered, your soul is free. We're here to heal, we're here to thrive. We are a dream who's come alive. We light a candle, our hearts awake. Illumination for God's sake. A revelation for God's sake. An evolution for God's sake. An inspiration for God's sake. 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 For God's sake.
And so it is. Welcome. Welcome, everyone. It's so good to be back with you today. We are starting a couple minutes after the top of the hour. Let me just make sure you can hear us here. We are playing with our technical, I'm not even going to call them difficulties, with our technical instruments. Let's call it that. So we're just we're working through all of those, bringing our first guest in here today, and I am beyond delighted with having her with us today. I'm so grateful that she's willing to be with us. And so we are going to get right to it. So I'm going to introduce our very first Wild Soul Medicine guest, and that is the beautiful and talented Jess Johnson. Jess is a songstress and essence and embodiment coach, a certified yoga teacher, and a self-proclaimed intimacy junkie. She is the founder of social change organization, Genes for Justice, and co-author of The Hardest's Way. She fuses her background and passion for embodied leadership, creative expression, and music with a deep devotion to people living a life that is free, fearless, and fulfilled. As a singer, songwriter, and artist, she uses her provocative and soulful sound as an invitation into the depths of our hearts. She effortlessly opens up a channel for emotion to be felt, expressed, and shared, while giving permission for all parts of ourselves to have a voice. So I think that you can tell already why I adore this woman and why we are soul sisters on the deepest level. So without further ado, I would love to add the energy of Jess Johnson to this space. Hello, Jess, and welcome.
Hi, Jody. Oh, so beautiful. Even just hearing those words come out of your mouth. I had my eyes closed and my heart open. It was just like feeling just so much appreciation for who you are.
Beautiful. I know Jess and I have been joking since we've been talking that we have a crush on each other's souls. And it's so true because we don't know each other that well in the traditional sense. And we haven't spent a ton of time together, but our souls know each other. And it's just this giddy experience every time we connect. Like, I just love you.
I feel like our souls jump up and down and hold hands.
They do. They completely do. Which I have to say, I think is really one of the magical things that happens when we show up in essence. Because when we show up in essence, we really are the core of who we are. And so a lot of the formality falls away. And then you can see a person, right? You can see who they really are without knowing what they actually do. It was funny. I asked Jess to send some information over, like, what are you up to and what classes are you offering? And I actually didn't know any of that stuff about her when she sent it. And I was like, gosh, she's really interesting. But I already knew I loved her.
I know, it's so true. I don't think we've ever really I mean, it's like, I so deeply get the work you do on the soul level with your clients and in your circles. Like, it's the same kind of thing. Like, we've never had a conversation about any of the technicalities or anything like that about what we do inside of these spaces. It's just like, so even in the song, it just like it all came through at such a deep level without really knowing any details. And it's so, I just think that brings me a lot of joy, and it's really funny when you think about how much we spend time trying to, like, I think in mainstream culture, like looking at LinkedIn profiles and like, oh, what'd you do before this and what'd you do before this, and I feel like we don't really operate in that realm very much.
I completely agree with you. And actually, for those of you who don't know, Jess is the creator of the Untamed Anthem, which we are going to be talking more about throughout the show. And at the end of the show, we're going to tell you how you can get a copy of the Untamed Anthem for free, an MP3 of it. So, so we're going to get to all of that juicy stuff. But I think I'm just really called to tell the story about how we did meet and how we did connect. And it was so non-traditional. So I'd love to start with that, if that's okay with you, Jess.
Yeah, absolutely.
Beautiful. So I met Jess back in August, and we were at a gathering of priestesses. And I had been there for the weekend, so I already knew and had connected with all of the women there. And then Jess came on the very last day. So there was a large group of women, and all of a sudden this, beautiful woman shows up, and she's, very cool looking, and she's got necklaces and bracelets, and she's walking around with this red ukulele, right? And so, I noticed that, and I tend to have a radar for people who are in ego, right? And so most people who would show up at a gathering holding their guitar would be, there'd be some ego there. Like, do you see me? And do you want me to play a song for you? And do you know that I play the guitar? So like, I noticed her a couple times, and I, was prepared for that, but I didn't quite get that vibe. So there was this point where she and I ended up in a seating area, and there were a couple other people there, and it was almost like magic. As I sat down there, everyone else sort of left. So it was just Jess and I and her ukulele.
It was us three.
It was us three. The ukulele is a spirit in and of itself.
It's just a spirit. Oh my gosh.
So I look at her, and there's no words. I just look at her, and I said, I didn't even know what her name was at that point, but it's totally what I mean when I say hello essence, right? Or when I joked about my site launching and my name not being on it, like I could just see her essence. And I said to her, sing me a song. And I think that was the first words I said to her. And so she did. And it was the most soul-stirring, perfect message. I could feel her in it. I got her as a person so much better than I would have if she said, I'm Jess Johnson, and here's what I do, and I'm this and that. And I was just captivated, and the song just went on and on and on, and I loved it, right? And so we're having this lovegasm out there in the song. And they're calling us and like, hey, we need to gather, and we're singing and listening. And I was just like, I was so moved. Mm-hmm. And actually, Jess, I may have you sing a few verses of that song, because I can hear that people are interested in it. So I'll finish telling this, and then I'll have you sing some of that song. But as we came in, then they're rushing us to be seated, and I said, by the way, what is your name? And she says, I'm Jess. And I said, I'm Jody. And she said, what do you do? And I said, I do this thing where I take people into essence and I heal their souls. And I said, what do you do? And she said, I write songs from essence. And I was like, of course you do. Of course you do.
It was a solid Essence partnership for sure.
It was. And so this is a cool thing about Jess as she prepares to sing us a few verses of this song. I don't know. Do you remember what song you sang? I'm putting you on the spot.
It's so funny, Jody. Actually, as I was sitting down for this, I was like, I really want to share a little bit of that song that was that song that brought us together in that way. So yeah, I totally remember, and I definitely would love to share a couple of verses of that.
That is perfect. So I just want to set up that Jess normally does walk around with her red ukulele, and Jess, I would love for you, because you've told me this before, because I shared this story with her, and she talked to me about why she walks around with it. But she was like this. Throughout that gathering, there were several different, like we transitioned to different spaces and different parts of ceremony and activities and things like that. And every time she sang, it added something to the space. Like it wasn't planned. She wasn't scheduled to do it. It's just how she walks around in life. And it was the most beautiful thing. And like really, those were some of my favorite moments of the entire process. And it was, I had never experienced someone bringing something like that to a space that was completely unrehearsed, was completely not about ego, really was like divinity being channeled and added into a space. So, so Jess, I'll turn it over to you. What if you want to sing for us first, or if you want to talk about the ukulele first, whatever comes to happen.
I'll just share. I have tears in my eyes listening to you share that, Jody, because that you just put words to how I feel in terms of how I go through life, and it really is like the ukulele it's like an extension of my heart. It's an extension of my soul. It's almost like a vehicle, a tool to allow the heart to be channeled out. And so I joke around that my ukulele is my favorite traveling companion, and it's really not a joke. Like I really do have this thing with me everywhere I go. I play it for people on airplanes. And usually, and this will kind of give, I think, a little bit of context. Like I'll have it with me because I'll hear when someone's sharing something the exact moment when a song, whether the song is already exists or whether the song is channeled in the moment. I can feel the moment in someone's heart when they're asking to be sung to in such a way. And it isn't about performing. It's really about opening the heart deeper. And there's like through the music, through the song, there's a transmission. There's a deeper conversation that happens. It's almost like giving someone's heart a massage, or like that's almost one of the best ways I can think about it. And so that, and sometimes I will do things without the ook. It'll just be a chant or something like that. But the ook really is like, it's this tool that's constantly available. Should the question from someone's heart come to me, like I'm desiring this right now. And, so I'll share that song, that it was like, even in that moment, like I just knew I have a lot of different songs that could have been sung, but in that moment between you and I knew exactly which song wanted to be sung. And it wasn't like a decision I made with my head. It was like the song told me, okay, now me, it's so interesting. So I will stop jabbering, but I just really, Joe, really, really appreciate the way you truly are an essence seer. You truly, you have this very epic filter about you that allows you to see these deep truths, and I immensely respect that. So I just wanted to share that before I start this song.
Thank you, sister.
Okay, Tell me if you can you hear the ook?
Yeah, it sounds beautiful.
Okay, here we go. If my lover was the sun, shining all his light on everyone, I would never dull his light, 'cause when he shines on others, you know that I feel his bright, yeah, yeah,
If my lover was the moon, I would tell her I love her, that I'd see her soon, even when she's waning away. In her luminescent radiance, I would play, I would play, I would play. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hey, yeah, yeah, hey. If my lover was the tree, I would lean on him and he would lean on me, even when the sky was gray. Underneath his branches I would feel his shade. Hey, hey, yeah. Hey, yeah, hey. If my lover looked like you, I would want to feel your freedom and your deepest truth. Yeah, 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 yeah. Hey, yeah, hey, hey, hey.
I want to clap. I want to clap. So beautiful. Oh my goodness. I have tears streaming down my face. It's moving to me every time. Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you.
Thank you. Now you have a whole host of women who have crushes on your soul. I can feel them loving you.
They're definitely soul songs for sure. They come through. It's like that song, for instance. I was sitting on the beach, this really beautiful beach in San Diego called Black's Beach. It's an energy vortex, and I was sitting there naked. You can be naked on this beach, and I was sitting there naked, looking at the ocean, looking at the sun, and I was imagining a world where we love each other the way that we see nature and love nature, and each verse, like there's many more verses of that song, but each verse was basically like these different elements of nature sharing how they are loved, can be loved, how they show love, and imagining that the transmission of the wisdom of that element of nature was applied to the people in our lives, our friends and lovers. And so that song was like a total co-creation with these different elements of nature that were giving wisdom on how we can love each other. And it just came through like in a flash, it was just, and then over the next couple of days, different verses would pop in my head. But I had this vision of that song being a song where people all over can add in their own verses. It's this very simple, repetitive flow. And I have this vision of people as they felt into the essence of that song, sharing the different elements of nature that bring them back to themselves, the different elements of nature that remind them of their wholeness, of their beauty, of their love, and like inviting people to write and author their own verses that are channeled from the different elements of nature that remind them of who they are and the love that they have to share. And so that's one of my favorite songs for that reason, and because it really invites nature in as teacher.
Love that. So you're going to have to, we'll get with Viv and find a way to, if anybody wants to buy a copy of that song, we'll make that available to a couple places. But I want to own a copy of that song. I don't even know if you have it available like that. You just flow so in the moment. But we need you, Jess. We need you in our cars and our MP3 players.
Thank you, Jody. Yeah, I feel that calling is definitely coming on. It's been this. I think there's been a little bit of in the past, there's been a resistance because I'd never saw myself going into the quote unquote music industry, because to me this really is such a personal offering and soulful offering, but it's really beautiful now because you don't have to be for your artistry, for your music, for whatever it is that's that channel that lets the heart and soul come out to the world. You don't have to go through an industry that, kind of extracts that soul and that essence from it anymore. There's so many, just like this radio show, for instance, there's so many ways for us to have these channels, these artistic forums be shared and received, and that doesn't require going through that particular channel. So now I'm really heeding the call of making that available for those reasons that you were saying. I want to be co-journeying with people through the heart, through the voice in their journeys and their travels, literally in the cars and planes. And, just that reminder that our hearts and souls are never alone, that we're always connected to each other.
Beautiful. And I know that one of the things that you do is you help people free their voices and step into the connection between their heart and their voice. And I want you to talk more about that. But first, I really want to know, have you always been this free? And yeah, so what did that look like? Have you always been this free, or has it been a process for you?
Yeah, I do feel in some way, of course, my soul was always free. But I feel my journey, when I look back I was asking my mom actually the other day, how I was as a little girl, because I don't really have a lot of memories of myself before the age of 5. And, she was like, you're always really polite. You're always very loving and helpful and all this stuff. But I don't remember myself being this. A lot of people, especially a lot of people that I work with, they have memories of themselves as a little tiny child being so fully self-expressed, and then that got dampened as they got older. And that's what I work with them to unlock. For me, I actually feel as I got older, I started to get freer and freer. Starting in middle school, I had this huge breakthrough of discovering what had me come alive. And that was music and dance, singing and dancing and being on stage and all that stuff. Really, it was this huge breakthrough where I started to really feel I was in my own essence. And that, as soon as that came online, it started getting bigger and bolder and bigger and bolder. And I think that has just been a ongoing trajectory to the point where I was felt so compelled to bring that experience to others. So it definitely, I would say it was a journey, but it's interesting because it was a little bit different than the way I often see freedom expressed. I really feel mine was a ramping up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, for me, it certainly has been that type of a process where I was actually just talking to my branding shaman the other day, and we were joking about how the tamed version of me was very left brain, logical, if this, then this, return on investment, regimented, structured, and, competent and capable and successful in certain ways in that realm. And what's been occurring for me in this really intense untaming process that I've been, undergoing for the last 6 or 8 months is my right brain is totally resurging. And now I'm writing poetry and I'm, downloading these, beautiful stories, and I'm singing and enjoying music and dressing differently and wanting to create art and look at beautiful pictures. And so it's really just interesting to sort of watch how much of ourselves we may shut down when we're really in that taming process, and how much richer our lives can be when we include it. Right.
Oh my gosh. And I feel like, I mean, it really is, it's the embodiment of a new renaissance of just like bringing out all those different parts of ourselves that possibly have always been there, have always been online. But like the more we peel off the layers, the more those become available, and the more we can listen and hear those yearnings and those desires that want to come through us. And then it's just like a question of either peeling off the layers or reprogramming those parts of us that said that we can't, or that it's not okay. And then once that starts to get unleashed, it's almost like, I envision it almost like slowly lifting the dam from a river. And like at a certain, you have to like effort at first to lift that dam or clear that dam. But at a certain point, that river is so powerful that like no block could possibly hold it back. No block could tame it. So it's like, that's how I see this part of our heart and soul expression that wants to come through. And it's the most beautiful thing when we start to see that river of heart and soul like flowing strongly, and like no dam could hold it back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was just tuning into the, how this flows with being an essence, right? It's like for me, the dam is really the way that most of us only kind of inhabit our humanness. And, so like there's a body that does some things, but our essence is hovering somewhere kind of above it. Our soul doesn't actually come all the way down. And there's this juiciness to when you actually allow the essence to fully embody the body. There's all of this magic that's possible. It's like the form gets fully animated. And so it is like that river coming in, like, it's just like gorgeous and fulfilling. And there's this juicy aliveness to it that can't happen when the dam is in place, right?
Oh no, I got that image as you were speaking of like that essence being almost like this dense little like seed on the inside, and then all of a sudden, like as we open, we give it permission, like the essence starts to inhabit the full form, like, and then it's like you can't stop dancing and creating and singing, whatever that expression is that wants to come out. It's like, it's the most beautiful thing. And that, Jody, that's why when it's coming from that place, that's why that's why you didn't experience it as ego, because when it's coming from that place where it's like almost that uncontrollable, like we're so in love, we're so in our soul's expression that it's not processing through the mind to be like, I'm going to show my worth by performing this, or I'm going to move ahead by doing this such and such. It's like such a different type of a flow of that energy. It's like full on exploding from like the heart, from that like soul space of love, of an essence that it wouldn't be experienced, and it couldn't be experienced as ego, because it's literally not even like playing around in the mind. It's like showing up as love.
I totally get that. And when I was just retelling the story, I was thinking, I say this a lot, but I love seeing it in action, which is the way that world peace will happen is when we all get an essence, right? Because in essence, there is no competition, and there is no ego, and there is no fear, and there is no control. And like all of that stuff is handled because we really are just, hearts and souls at that point. And, I was getting that as I was retelling the story about our meeting is, in that space, it's just pure. It's just pure. And all of our interactions have been that way, which is, rare. It's rare in this world because most people are not so fully in essence. And so, our souls recognize each other like, oh, there's someone who's like fully out and fully, the dam is open, which is really fun and cool to play in. So I just love presencing that for people, because I think a lot of people feel that being an essence or doing the personal work that it takes to get there is sort of like a luxury, right? Like first I'm going to go earn my money, or I'm going to raise my kids, or I'm going to, do the things that people do. And then later I'm going to find myself. And, what I'm always a stand for, a champion, I'm a champion for the return of essence, which is essence is the point. You got to do that first. And then some things will flow from there, but you can't put that off.
It's so true. I was just at a Easter gathering with my partner and was listening to one of his family members talk about her relationship to dancing, and was talking about like how dancing was her life and her biggest passion and all that stuff. And then she graduated college and stopped dancing and put it on the shelf, and was got a job and all this stuff, and was talking about how she missed it, and kept saying like, maybe one day I'll get back into it, maybe one day. And I was like talking to her, and I was like, is there a possibility that you could even just carve out a little bit of time each week to just give yourself space, even if it's just in the morning, you're not going to a class. Like in the morning, you wake yourself up by like turning on your favorite song and just busting out in your dance. And just to, and what I was like inviting her into is just starting off the day in essence, like this, like having some kind of a practice where she can have that, she can bring forth that relationship that helps her remember her essence, so that the rest of the day, even if she's not dancing all day long, that she's coming from that place, and that place is stoked inside of her. Like that fire has been stoked. So it's burning throughout the day. It's not just like something that is one day I'll start that fire back up again from like a complete, from no spark, and yeah, it's like, I know that that's one of the reasons we're so aligned, is because it's like that place it's so vital. It's truly like vital is the word for it. Like it's so vital. And like the world, I mean, I just imagine what the state of the world would be if we're all playing with each other from that place and living and loving and learning and doing our things from that place. And it's like a completely different game.
Mm-hmm. So true. So true. And that brings me to a question around, even though I'm an expert in essence work and you are too, there are certainly times when I'm not in essence. And so let's talk a little bit about that. Like, what kind of things do you notice pull you out of essence? And what do you do for yourself to be in essence or to return to essence when you notice you've slipped out?
Yes, I definitely catch myself coming out of essence for sure. And the things, I'm trying to think of like particular themes that pull me out of that. I think like anytime that I get into any type of scarcity conversation, like any type of scarcity, whether it's about money or time or like love or anything having to do with scarcity, I think is a big villain for my essence for sure. And even sometimes like I have self-worth conversations. I mean, it's like the whole, like I run the whole gamut, and it's like I also embody so much of this that I work with other people on. And so it's like I have to be completely honest with myself when it shows up for myself as soon as it shows up. You know what I mean? Because it's like that's where I find my integrity. And so when I find myself in those places, it's a couple things. Like definitely nature is a huge one. Like I pray and I lay on the earth and I get out by myself in nature. And it's kind of like that song, like the song that I was sharing for you before, which is called Universal Lover. I go out into nature and I really truly feel like there's so many things in nature that are my mentor, that if I listen to them, they remind me of what's true. And it's not even like going to another person to remind me. It's like those elements always have wisdom. And so that's a huge thing for me, is going out into nature. And then another is singing, chanting, and like picking up my ukulele and just getting back into, because it brings me back into my heart, where there's no scarcity conversation in our hearts and our souls. They don't have those conversations. And like our hearts know love. That's what they know. And they know how to give it and they know how to receive it. And it's like, so anything like that, like music really is a huge tool for me to go back into that space where there's no lack. And so I would say those are two huge ones. Prayer, music, and nature are like my three top ones.
That's beautiful. That's so good. And I say that because I really want people to get that so when I teach my clients about essence, they're always like, great. So like they think there's like a finish line, like, oh, someday I'm going to get to essence and then I'm going to be done, And then if they've, had a week or a day or, they've done it for 5 minutes and then they slip out and then they're like, oh, I suck at essence, It's like, it really is a practice. It is the deepest practice of, at first just cultivating a little space for your essence to come out to play and to feel it and to know it. And then, creating more space and then integrating it into your life such that people around you expect you to show up in essence, right? And then there's further and further layers. So there's always places where it can come out. And I just, the encouragement, the invitation is to just begin. Just begin. I love, Jess, what you were saying about nurturing the spark so that you're not letting it die out to a cold bit of ashes before you start to try to fan it, but actually just, giving it some attention and fanning those flames sooner rather than later.
Yes. Because it's like, it's like if you, like, I think fire is a great metaphor for it because it is. It's like if you've got the pilot light on, then it's like a slow burning and it may not be warming the whole house, but it's there. And so you can always go down and turn it up. It's always burning. And I think that's like that having a practice that keeps that spark alive, that pilot light on, just like, and tending to that and then giving ourselves more space to turn it into like this epic bonfire when we can. Like, I love that metaphor for sure.
Yeah. Beautiful. So we're going to switch gears here a little bit. One of the other things that you are an expert in is creating intimacy. And I can feel the lead in here, right? Because when you're in essence, there's an availability for connection because all of our like human defenses are not up. But I would love to, let's talk about that because intimacy is an edge for me, actually. I'm a warrior archetype, so I tend to lead with, my armor. And that's been a thing that I've been playing with within my relationship, all my relationships, not even just my marriage, even my friend relationships. And so I would love to hear some wisdom from you around creating intimacy.
Oh, yes. Oh my, when you said that word, even that word, it just like, my heart just pours open. Like it is. It's like, I've never really called myself an intimacy junkie until this interview was coming up. And I was like, gosh, I'm talking about intimacy or being intimacy or living it or invoking it or provoking it all the time. I'm such like, I have this little devious, mischievous edge pusher part in my like archetypal family. Like there's totally this little like devious one who is like pushing the edges of intimacy in my relationships all the time. And I do like to be an invitation rather than like forcing that on people for sure. I think that we get to invite in intimacy by who we're being. And that's my first commitment is like inviting in intimacy in all my relationships by who I'm being and like walking around without that, like you're talking about that armor, like walking out around without that armor. Like I put myself in check all the time around like, am I being, there's three ways of being that I check in with myself on, and it's become such a practice I don't even think about it anymore, but it's, am I being vulnerable? Am I being compassionate? Am I being courageous? And each one of those I feel like is a instigator for intimacy. Because am I being vulnerable is like, am I being so fully raw and fully real, allowing myself to be seen, allowing the parts of me that I might be afraid to show, or am I allowing those am I giving those voice? Am I being compassionate? It's like, I think that's another area where we can have armor that we're not aware of, is like anytime that we make up a story or have a judgment around anybody, it's like there's a wall that goes up a little bit, because am I being compassionate is like, I don't actually know what this person is all about, what they're going through. Am I being compassionate towards them in any given moment? And am I being compassionate towards myself? Am I walking around allowing my own self-judgment to be released so that compassion can invite in mutual seeing, loving, understanding, empathy, respect? And then am I being courageous? Like, and that question is kind of like, am I just kind of passively, like I could be passively walking around, allowing people in, being compassionate, but like, am I being courageous to like then go one step deeper, one step farther? Am I coming from my power and like both coming from love and my power? And so those are 3 questions that at a certain point in my life, I just started recognizing that those were 3 channels to check in with. Am I allowing intimacy to flow in and flow out? And then I feel like there's also 3, and there's probably more, but to me, it's like 3 versions of intimacy. Like there's self-intimacy, and then there's intimacy with, intimate relationships. And then that could be friendships, lovers, partners, husbands, wives. And then there's, and clients even. And then is there, intimacy with the collective, with my community, with my tribe, with my fans, with my, world, how do we provoke, invoke, and embody intimacy on all those 3 levels. So, so those are kind of like when I break down intimacy a little bit, those are some of the ways that I have built relationship to it. But it can be it's a very scary thing for a lot of people. And I think one of the reasons that I started developing such a passion for it is because I found, and this has been in me for a long time, like I found that I've always been somebody that people feel really safe with. Like they'll share their stories with. I think that I walk around kind of as a safe space for that. And but I wasn't always so forthcoming with my own vulnerability. And within the last 4 years, I'd say I went on an epic journey of my own vulnerability. And as I did that, and as I chose that, and as I broke through those walls at a deeper and deeper level, I found that the intimacy that I was able to create wasn't just a one-sided intimacy of them feeling safe with me, but like truly, truly, there's a deeper level of trust and of freedom that happens when we allow that intimacy to go both ways. And so that's been a huge, very real and very passionate part of my journey is going into that and then being a space for that to exist and live with others. And that's another huge origin of our expression is like it can be very vulnerable and very intimate to go into the process of like allowing that art, that music, that dance, that whatever that is to come out. As we build the intimacy muscles, it also frees up the channel for that expression to come out from that deep place of essence rather than that place of like, oh, I'm singing to be good, or I'm painting to be good, or I'm a great artist or whatever. It's like, no, it's not about that. It's about like fully unlocking that freedom that's inside of ourselves. And that's an extremely intimate journey. So it's kind of like I'm hesitant to say this because I don't like to ever speak in like never or always, but like, I don't know if you can have one without the other. I don't know if you can have like full freedom of expression without that presence of intimacy, online. So that's what I'm like playing with and massaging, is that relationship between those and how that can be, offered, given away, cultivated, stewarded in the most, just creative and joyful and sometimes like scary ways.
Beautiful. That's so good. First of all, that whole answer, you're answering my questions as I think them. So it's so beautiful. We're on the same wave. I was like, oh, I'm going to ask about that. And then you just answer it beautifully. So that was everything I wanted to know about intimacy. And also I can feel that, is not everything I want to know. I have many things to learn about intimacy, and I actually can really relate to that journey of I think a lot of coaches do that, where we're super good at nurturing other people and not good at nurturing ourselves, right? And so we hide behind like, oh, let's talk about you and let me help you and let me be there for you, as a way to really run from being on the receiving end of the intimacy, which does require vulnerability and courage and all of those pieces that you spoke about. So I love that invitation for those of us who may think that we're being really intimate, but like we're intimate with our clients and then not so intimate with people who may be closer to us and more available to us. So that definitely feels like a beautiful invitation for me as well. Mm. And then, and then that makes me curious, Jess, about your choosing in love. And I know that you have some really interesting relationships, on your personal level. And so I would love to hear, share with us about choosing in love. What does that mean? And what does that look like in your life?
Yeah, it's so funny. If my wife, who, Ariel, is listening, she'll be laughing because she jokes with me about this all the time, about how my choosing in love. But it's like, I think we're raised with this falling in love. We're kind of raised with this Prince Charming fairy tale, kind of like sweep off our feet, fall in love. And there's something so beautiful about that, because I think at the essence of that is like the light side of that is surrender, and that's so beautiful. But with choosing in love, I've been recognizing that again, I'll track my own journey. With every relationship, it's like I could only quote unquote fall in love as deeply as I was choosing to. And ultimately, at the end of the day, I don't think that there's anything manipulative about love. Like, it doesn't just I don't actually believe that it comes and just takes us over, blindsides us. Like, I feel like we choose the level to which we're open to receive, and choose the level to which we're open to give. And so there's some deep self-responsibility, I believe, in terms of how deeply we can really go in love. And it's kind of like that Rumi quote, our task is not to, I don't remember the exact quote, but it's like, our task is not to seek love, it's to seek all the barriers to love and remove them. It's something along those lines. And it's so I just feel like I've been looking at this last relationship, my current boyfriend, and there was all these different little thresholds where I was kind of either withholding a little bit or not wanting to fully relax into the love that was available. Cause I was like, I don't know if do I want to go super deep with him? And there were these teeny little micro boundary thresholds that I was noticing. And so as I approached each one, it was like, what do I choose here? And each one I would ask myself the question, and then I would choose to remove it, or I'd choose to walk through it. And then at a certain point, I just found myself completely expansive, completely open, completely there and all in with it. And it was like every step of that journey was a choosing. And I feel like sometimes we think that it's taken us over. We think that it's blindsided us, but really I believe that at a deeper level, for whatever reason, our soul's journey is about the lesson that feeling of falling or feeling of being taken over by it. There's some deeper lesson that's there. And so at some much deeper level, we chose that as well, and sometimes it's a conscious choice and sometimes it's not conscious, but I think that we're always constantly choosing into it. So it's something I've been playing with and really living out and embodying in my life, to just kind of I like to kind of be my own case study for these deeper knowings that come through me. And I'm like, okay, that came through. Let me test this out. Let me live this out and see what happens. And so that's the kind of been the journey that I've been on the last couple of relationships, is really looking at how deeply I was choosing, and then also feeling into whether that is being matched by my partner, and not as a judgment, but just like, and being compassionate. Like, are they matching me? Are they choosing into this the way that I am? And how does that show up in our relationship? So I don't know if that makes sense. It's like, as I'm sharing it, it's like more of a feeling than a thought, but did that kind of make sense a little bit?
Yeah, I think it's fascinating. And I think I can feel some of the questions bubbling up of like, so there's definitely an untamed version of relationship there, right? Like you have a wife, you have a lover, or have or had, or, how does all of that work? And so do you want to say any more about that?
I do things so casually, and then I'm like, oh, those are not like normal. It's like not normal, normal relationship dynamics. But yeah, I'll just share really quick, just for in case because I don't want that to be a distraction.
Totally.
That I have. We call each other wife. It's really, truly like we're in love with each other's purpose. We're in love with each other's essence. We're not legally married, but we walk around together with our red ukuleles and sing songs for the world together and create really beautiful, magical moments. And so, it's definitely probably not what most people think of when they hear the word wife, like the way that we live it out. She has an epic, beautiful man, partner, lover, who she's in deep relationship with. And then I have a very, very intimate, deep relationship with a partner who I've been with it's been short, but very deep. And so that's like where my romantic energy is channeled into him.
Yeah. And you know what the reason I want to do to elaborate is because I know Ariel and I adore her as well. And what I think is so, what is the word? I mean, all the words like sweet, cool, interesting, but it's deeper than that. It's like, what I think is so epic about the way that the two of you love each other is it reminds me of, back in the Victorian era where women would be like such good friends with each other, and they would like hold hands with each other, and they would kiss on the lips, and they would, like be best friends in this really intimate sense of the word. And we've gotten so far away from that. And so I love the way that you push the edge of reminding us that love is love, and, labels are stories, and, that we can challenge those by way of, it's just another form of breaking down those barriers that you were talking about. Like, what would be in the way here? What would be in the way of me loving you more, or being more available for your love? Whether that's a label or story or a living situation or, whatever. So I love that you guys do that.
Yeah, Jody, that's exactly it. And it's like, and I think that, that in terms of, I was talking about the journey of intimacy. Ariel has been a huge part of my journey with intimacy in that, because it's like how, like we both have that sort of devious side of pushing the edges and breaking through paradigms, and that our love definitely has this, it's like, how intimate can you go with a friend? Like we basically plunged into the depths of the intimacy of that, like woman to woman, soul level friendship that is like there, where to the point where like friend isn't even a word that we ever use with each other, because it feels like it's gone so far beyond that, which is why we started calling each other wives, was because it was like, what's the word that it's hard to find a label, that can define what this is. And so, I mean, last night we went out on a little date, and we were kissing, we kept kissing each other on the lips, and we had all these admirers around us, kind of like checking us out to figure out what was going on. Cause it's not like this, like lover. It's not like this lover, romantic type of energy, but in another way, it's like, what is a lover? A lover is one who loves, right? So then it is a lover, so we're just constantly playing around with that, but really, like, it's been a huge, that relationship has been a huge part of my journey with intimacy and breaking down the walls of like Like I like to look at every relationship and be like, what's the edge of the intimacy that's available for this relationship? And now what about this one? And now what about this one? And they're all different, they're all different. Like where I go with one person isn't where I go with another person. So it's not like, okay, now I've set this bar of intimacy, so all relationships will go to that bar. It's not like that. Like, I don't think that that's, anything that any of us would really desire. But it's like in the unique combination of every relationship asking that question, what level of intimacy is being asked for in this unique dynamic, and how do we get there? And it's a really beautiful way of going through life and relationship, is like putting that question in the center of the interaction and the engagement.
Love that. I mean, that truly is the heart of wild soul medicine. It's like, it is, what is the tonic for your soul, and what is the most untamed way that you could imagine it or explore it, because that's where the most freedom is.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. So I know that we're nearing the end of our time together, and I want to talk just a bit about the Untamed Anthem, since that is the beautiful gift that you have for all of our listeners. So I would love to have you just actually I'm just going to set it up, like what it is, why, how it came about, and then Jess, you can add anything that you want to add about what you've really birthed into that anthem. But this is what came. The next thing after we, told each other what we did in that first meeting is I said, I would love to have you write a song for me, for my work, and for the women who do these beautiful, when we get to the bottom of a story, which is the core event work that we do, we have this beautiful ritual release ceremony, and the women tell their story, and they're witnessed by each other. And then we have this whole ceremony of things that we say and we do, which reflect, you are not your story, and you are free from the story now. And it's a beautiful, moving ritual. And I've always wanted to have a song that went with it. So what I was telling her is, so in that moment, it was just, would you write a song for me? And she said, absolutely. I feel that. Right. And then we sort of just let it percolate for a few months. And as the radio show started to come to fruition, I reached back out and said, okay, hey, we're about to launch this thing. And, if you're feeling it, I'd love to, talk more about the song. So we agreed to it, and then we let it percolate for another few months, and the show was about to start. And we had talked very little about, specifics. What I had shared with her is so this is how I roll, right? I'm totally easy to write a song for. I'm like, I'd like a song that could be like a lullaby, but it could also be really intense. I could use it in these ceremonies, but it could also be the intro to my radio show, and it could change, depending on what we needed to use it for. So work with that. Like, can you have a song that would do everything? And of course, she was like, totally. I totally trust that can happen. Yes, I'm open to that. So I share all of this because it is new paradigm in motion, right? So old paradigm would say, let's think about a song, and let's talk about the verses, and let's talk about a hook, and let's talk about who would like it and who would listen, and what would be the return on investment, and how can we pay for it, and blah, 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 right? We didn't talk about any of that. I gave her a vibration of, this is what I'm after. And then I trusted her genius. And she showed up, a couple, I don't know, it was probably a few weeks after that she showed up, like, I was in ceremony this weekend and I channeled the song. And I had been in ceremony also that same weekend, not with her, across the country from her. And there were all these beautiful synchronicities of, the rhythm that is in the song was a rhythm that was showing up in my journey. And as we were just comparing notes, it was one miraculous piece after another. And then when I started looking at the verses, again, I hadn't told her, like, what are the themes of my work, or what do we talk about, or what words should be in there. But I'm reading these verses, and I'm just, again, the tears are streaming down my face, because it is, I am the lost, I am the found, I'm rising up while bowing down. That is what we do in this work. It's what we talk about. I'm a woman planted in truth. I grow my branches from sacred roots. Trees are a huge theme in my life, and they're a big part of, the dynamic and the archetype that's built into this work. And it was really literally like one thing after another that was just couldn't have been more perfect, which is birthed from me being clear on my vibration and her being clear in her vibration, and then the alchemical magic that comes from that. So what Jess has created really is there is a whole vibration buried in the work, buried in the music, so that it is all of these things. It's an invocation. It's a dedication. It's a revelation. It's a, it's a chant. It's a mantra. It is a song. It is an anthem for the larger container of untaming that we're up to here. So Jess, would you like to add anything about your creation?
I mean, it's just, I feel like the journey of it was so, I mean, you already spoke to it, but it was just so, it was such a yes. Like when you shared what you envisioned and, even with all those different layers, like it could be a lullaby, it could be this, I don't even know if I was listening with my ears. My whole body was like, yes. Yeah. Like, it was like everything inside of me knew that that it was actually already written, that I was already like this. I think the song had already been written and it just needed me as a channel to flow through. You know what I mean? Like the way that it came through was so, it was like a kind of like a bolt of lightning, kind of like that river, that like, cause it was like soft, but it was so powerful. It was amazing. Just like all I really needed to do was open up the channel and let it flow through. Like and the interesting thing was, Jode, is that this came through on like the beat came through on this medicine drum. It's actually Ariel's medicine drum. She's used it in a lot of different ceremonies, and I've never even played it before. I've never even picked it up before. And I just felt really drawn to that drum for some reason. And I just this beat started coming out. And from there, the entire like flow just came through. And then I went back and I like looked at a couple of the verse, like then I recorded it. Then I wrote down what had been recorded, because that's my process. Like I don't like sit down and write. It's like something flows through and I have to press my voice memo to record it, because otherwise I won't even know what just came through. It's truly like a channel. And then, and so that's kind of was just like a little bit about the process of it. But the thing that I just feel most inspired by with it is just that my whole being was such a yes to doing it. It's like truly like it already was living and existing and had been written, and it just needed a voice to come through. And so it was an honor to get to do that for you and for these women. And I sent it to like 3 of my best women friends last night, I think. And I shared this with them and I said, with this, like I shared with them about you. And I was like, with this, I make a declaration moving forward that like, I shall only do this with people who I 100% believe in the work that they're propelling in the world. I shall only align in this way with people who I feel, just that deep resonance and alignment, because I know that these songs have the power to bring that transmission through their work through at astronomical levels. And I want to have that be a tool and a mechanism for people that are doing heart-centered, soulful, powerful, deep work. And so it's like, with that comes responsibility and discernment and I'm not even worried about the discernment, because it was like the way that it was such a yes with you. I know that it will be clear when the alignment's not there. So I'm just was so in love with this journey, so in love with the process, and so in love with like our first call as that came through. And I was like, oh my gosh, because you had been so patient and gracious of just like letting that happen when it happened. And as soon as it happened, like I wanted to call you right away, because I was like, oh, I think this is it. It just came through right now. And I didn't want to wait even a minute,
Yep. And that's how we roll. So, Jess Johnson, I could talk to you all day long, and I'm sure that we will have many more Wild Soul Medicine Radio conversations in the future. But for today, what we are going to do is to give you all access. The easiest way to get access to the full Untamed Anthem is to go to the website, which is untamedyou.com. Click on the Join Us button or scroll all the way to the bottom, Join Us. And then if you enter your name and email, you'll be taken to a thank you page that actually has the link for you to download the MP3. You do have to enter some information, like you'll have to enter your name and address and stuff. There wasn't a way for us to turn that off. So, it's a free MP3, so it'll take you just a minute to enter that stuff. But yeah, so untamedyou.com. Join us once you get there. And then on the thank you page, there's the link for you to download the MP3. So you don't have to just listen to it on your computer. You can stick it in your iPod or listen to it on the go. The other place to get it is we are posting it now in the tribe. So if you're not yet in the tribe, that's where we continue these conversations throughout the week. Jess is also in the tribe. And, Jess, if you have time in the next few days to kind of just pop in there and say, hey, or respond to whatever other questions people may have for you, because we didn't really talk about where they can connect with you or what other things you're up to, and totally let's do that over in the tribe. So if you want to join us in the tribe, go to facebook.com/groups/Wild Soul Medicine Radio Tribe, Wild Soul Medicine Radio Tribe. And the link to download the MP3 will be in there also, as well as the beautiful continuing gift of Jess Johnson. So thank you, my love, so much for being here. And I am going to actually play us out with the full version of the song. So you're going to get to hear it before you even go download it, but you're going to want it because, every time I listen to it, I get more and more expansion and download and just like amazing vibrational juju. So I'm going to play us out with the full 3-minute version of the song for your listening pleasure. So thank you, Jess. I adore you. I love you. And we'll talk again soon.
I love you. Sounds so good. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
I am the lost. I am the found. I'm rising up while bowing down. I am a woman planted in truth. I grow my branches from sacred roots. You are the form of who you want to be. So come untethered, your soul is free. We're here to heal, we're here to thrive. We are a dream who's come alive. We light a candle, our hearts awake. Illumination for God's sake, for God's sake, for God's sake, for God's sake. I am a temple who walks the earth. My womb is fertile for giving birth. I am a lover of day and night. I dance in darkness, I dance in light. I am a blessing from God above. I sing for freedom, I sing for love. We are the women, we are the seeds. We are reclaiming our sacred needs. We are the ocean, we are the lake. A revolution for God's sake. A revolution for God's sake, for God's sake, for God's sake, for God's sake, for God's sake. You live in me, I live in you. You flow through me, I flow through you. You breathe through me, I breathe through you. I am a woman whose heart is true. I live in me, while loving you. I am a woman whose soul is true. You move in me, I move in you. I move in you. I move in you. I move in you.